What is up, good viewers? Welcome back to Shop Talk Tuesday Live. If you don't recognize me without my beard, sorry, this is Nathan from Goodview Woodworks. Oh man, I look so weird. First things first, I want to say tonight we're going to be going over a few things that are coming up on the channel. And this will be a time after we go through the updates. This will be a time for you guys to ask questions, Q&A, as we always do here, Shop Talk Tuesday Live. What is up, guys? How have you been? Let me know where you're chiming in from this evening. It's been about 2 weeks, I guess, since I've seen you guys. So let me know where you're chiming in from. So far, Jennifer, what is up? She said that's a great green pigment. We'll be going over that in a minute. Tom Smith says, howdy, Nate. Looking forward to learning new stuff. Steve says, Nathan, time to show off your skill. Yeah. And DK says, congratulations to you and your family. Those are some lucky children. Steve says from Southgate. Coleman from Coleman Axtman says, hello from Montana. Marcy, hello from Wilmington, North Carolina. That's a cool area. I like that area. It's pretty. So guys, real quick, first things first, if you guys haven't noticed or haven't seen on Facebook or whatever, if you guys don't follow me there, if you don't follow me on, if you're not part of the Patreon, then you won't know this, but baby boy was born last Friday. So, he's actually, so not this past Friday, but the Friday before. He's almost 2 weeks old now. And, so he'll be 2 weeks on Friday. So anyway, man, it has been crazy here. It's been crazy just becoming accustomed to having two babies. We have a 13-month-old baby. Technically, she can't be a toddler yet until 2, so we still have a whole nother year for that. And then baby boy was born, so we have a 13-month-old and a 2-week-old. Things are crazy over here. So yeah, just so if you guys have noticed, I've been trying to post a video each week. There's been a little bit of a delay because of baby boy, but I am still trying to do my best to get things out there to you guys. So let's get to some comments. Jennifer says, she's from New Hampshire. Troy says, what's up, Nate? Thompson says, long distance shout out Franklin County, Virginia. Okay, Tom. Yeah, Franklin County is not too far. I have my dad lives out in Roanoke, so I guess that's not too far from there as well. John says congratulations. Jonathan King says Belleville, Michigan. What's up, Jonathan? You have to help me with that one. So Farizia says hi. Melvin from Suriname. And Jason says, good evening. Hope the babies and mom are doing well. They are. Tom Smith says, congratulations. Okay. All right, guys. So let's get into, if you guys saw the thumbnail, there's a color that I've had that I have not used. And it actually turned out really well. I was testing out some epoxy, new brand of epoxy, and I'll let you guys in on it because you guys are here for the live stream. But if you guys go to DIYepoxy.com, they asked if I would try out their casting epoxy, and it is really nice, actually. If you can see, I poured pretty thick here. It's about 2 inches just to test, and then we used our Margarita, which is P1510 Margarita. It's actually a really pretty color. What do you guys think about this green? I really like this green. It's not quite emerald green, but it's very close. I've never had a margarita this color, but it is a very pretty green. Carson says, yo, what's good? I saw you like an hour ago. What's up, Carson? How you doing? Bye. Hey, did you get your shoe cleaned off? Sorry about the bombs in the yard, bro. R. Sully says, hello from Pennsylvania. Jason says, looks great from here. John says, nice color for sure. Steve says, really nice. R. Sully says, congratulations. Carson said, yeah, he got his shoe cleaned off. That's awesome. DK says almost it looks almost emerald. It's a nice color. Yes, it is. Coleman says he likes the margarita color. Um, Carson said I stepped on my dog's leash before I did. Oh man, gross. Okay. So yeah, if you guys go over to DIYepoxy.com, their casting epoxy is really nice. I didn't have any issues. As a matter of fact, when I poured this, I didn't, obviously you can see I didn't seal the wood. I also didn't seal the edges either. Now, there's one thing I did notice. It had very low exotherm. If you guys know what that means, it just means that it didn't generate a lot of heat, even pouring two inches thick. Even pouring 2 inches thick, it still didn't. It didn't get hot at all. It actually took about 3 days before I could pull it out of the mold, which is really nice. It gives, when you have a slow curing epoxy like that, it gives it time to soak into the wood and give it a really strong bond. So I would always, I know there are some other guys that say that it's okay to seal the edges. I just don't, because I've had things fail, and I just would not want that to happen to any of you guys. But one thing I did notice, it does, when you pour it a little thicker, it does have what you call suck back. I'm trying to see if I can get it here, but it's got a little lip. You can see that the edge is almost as tall as the wood, but the wood is still sticking up a little bit. So you can see the edge of the wood is wet, where the epoxy rose to that height, but then it dropped down. That's called suck back, and that happens with a lot of epoxies. It just happens from the exothermic reaction. It tends to shrink just a little bit when curing. So nothing to worry about there. You can always plane it down. So that was just a brief shout out to DIYepoxy.com. Really like their stuff. This is my first time trying it. I have nothing against Incredible Solutions at all. I still like them. I still use them. But DIY Epoxy asked me to test it out, and it came out pretty nice. I'm actually really surprised. So if you guys want to check them out, go over to DIYepoxy.com. So DK says, how many pours did you do? That couldn't have been one pour. Yep, DK, one single pour, poured it at one time. One single pour, no layers. Troy says, I guess you didn't try the Rivertail epoxy yet. I ordered another kit to make sure it wasn't me that screwed it up. Troy, no, I have not used it yet, but if you, I don't know if you guys can see, now I took the wood out of here. Do you guys remember that burl that I got from Worldwide Burl? I will be using that epoxy to do a coffee table. That's what we ended up deciding to make. So we're using that river table epoxy on that. Hopefully it works out well. I think it will. And then I'll let you know, Troy, see how it works. So DK says cupping. What do you mean cupping, DK? Iron Man. What's up, handsome? What's up, DK? How you doing, man? Let's see. Troy says, what is the price on the DIY epoxy? You know what? I forgot. I can always look it up for you guys. If you go to DIYepoxy.com, it should tell you. I'm going to go there real quick and just get a quick price for you guys. DK says clean shaven face. Oh, well, I know. You know what's funny is right after I shaved my face, when I looked in the mirror, I was like, man, I have a really small head. It looks super small. So we'll go ahead and see how much it costs here on the DIYepoxy.com. But so there's a few things that I have that. There was another test. I don't know if you can see the form is sitting right here. And I guess I'll let you guys on a little bit of a secret. I guess I haven't told very many people, but I am working on something that I think that you guys would benefit from. I'll give you a kind of a heads up or a clue. That's it. I'll give you a clue. Maybe you guys can guess what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to tell you the answer, but I'm trying to figure out a way to have a better product that has to do with the molds here, because if you guys know how to build the molds, sometimes they take there is a thing that you need to use every time when you're making your own mold, and I think it's really expensive, and I'm trying to do my best to come out with a Good View Woodworks edition, but much more cost effective. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. That was also another test for this Margarita. So Courtney's on the right path there. But that was another test that I was going to do. So, okay, guys. So here you go. I'm going to look up the Casting Pro, is what they call it, from DIY Epoxy, and I'll show you guys here as soon as I bring it up. We're going to look at the size here. So you have a 96 gallon and a gallon and a half. So for 1.5 gallons is $144.95. So you're looking at roughly $100 a gallon after shipping. So for 96 ounce, they have a 96 ounce option, which is $80, and a gallon and a half for $144. Okay, so those are the prices on the DIY Epoxy. From what I've heard too, they have a very similar composition to the Stone Coat Countertop Supercast, but it is different than theirs. So, like I said, this one actually took about 3 days before I could pull it out of the mold, so it was pretty good. Marcy H says silicone. Courtney says like a mold release product. Courtney's on the right path. Todd says hi from New Hampshire. What's up, Todd? DK says tape or release. DK is also on the right path. Nate Glover says, what's up, bro? Jason retracted the message. Sorry, Jason. And Chad Hinwood says, and so, man, it's going to be hard to leave because I know I'm going to miss my kids and my wife when I go back to work. But Chad says, Chad sent a super chat. Thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. $5. Hey, man, really, really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and give a plug real quick for patreon.com. Guys, thanks for supporting this channel. Obviously, the more that you guys give, the more content I can bring to you guys. And so I'm doing my best for you guys watch and share my videos, and that is also really good too, as far as supporting the channel. But if you want to do a little bit more, you can always go to patreon.com/goodviewwoodworks and support the channel there. We have 4 tiers, and you can choose whatever tier you would like to choose. I will say the highest tier, and Jennifer is a part of that, and the best part of that tier is that we get to do a one-on-one consultation if you guys would like, and I can get to help out as best I can, or you get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's fine. We'll do like a live Zoom thing, something like that. So Jennifer, we still need to set that up. Jennifer says tape! Exclamation point. I'm not going to say yay or nay on that one, okay? Later says congrats. Todd says, looking to do a black pigment pour. What's the best pigment you have used? Now, do you mean metallic powder, or do you mean like an alcohol ink or a dye? DK says, Nate, been thinking about a coffee table in a surfboard shape. I know it's not original, but in a man cave. That'll be cool. What colors are you going to go with, and what kind of wood? Nate says, any difficulty in coating your last table in casting epoxy instead of tabletop due to viscosity? Any pros? How long was the cure? Okay, Nate, great question. No, I didn't have any issues. The only issue that I had, which was my mistake, was I didn't level the table before I poured. I was trying to hurry to get home to my wife, and I wanted to pour really quickly and forgot to level it. So I had to do another pour. But no, it all came out nicely. Um, I actually like doing the casting epoxy because it's stronger. This is the issue though. It's not going to have the UV protection that your tabletop epoxy is going to have. And so that's why we're going to be adding a polyaspartic coat on top of the table. So I would still recommend using, if you don't want to use a polyaspartic or you don't want to add something on top like a polyurethane or anything that has UV inhibitors in it, I would just continue to go with tabletop. However, it did work really well. The casting epoxy is harder than the tabletop epoxy. It doesn't bend. It's then the tabletop stuff is supposed to stay a little bit not soft but flexible. So that's about all the information I can give you there. It took about the same amount of time. Actually, you know what? It's set up in like 2.5 days. So about the same amount of time that you would pour in a thick pour. I didn't have any really difference in time. Todd Hall says either. Which black pigment? Okay, so Todd, great question. Here is a set of dyes that worked really well. It's called Let's Resin. If you go on Amazon, you'll see Let's Resin, and they have, I think it's like $20 for 16 colors. And they have these little bottles in here. I'll show you. Here, I'll open one up for you. This one, it says lemon yellow. Pretty cool color. Anyway, it comes in like a little eyedropper bottle. You don't need a whole lot to dye to pigment your epoxy, but it worked really well. I had no issues. And then of course you got Goodview Woodworks Caviar, which is the black pigment. I think I have some here. No, this is Dolphin, but I have one about this size. Caviar. If you go to goodviewwoodworks.com, I like that black pigment as well. If you guys have you've seen the desk, the cherry desk build that I did recently for a local firefighter, I used the Goodview Woodworks Caviar for that one. And I really like that color because it's a metallic powder, it's black, but it shimmers a little bit lighter than black, so you can actually do the swirls. If you wanted just a solid black, you would need to go with the dye. Chad Hinwood says, crush that like button. You know what, guys? Yeah, do that for me. We got 29 people right here live. Go ahead and hit that like button. It only takes a second. It puts things up higher in the queue for me, so I would really appreciate if you did that. Thanks, guys. So Troy says, use the landscaping border for that surfboard table. It worked great. Yes, I've also used landscaping border. I spoke with Cam over at Blacktail Studio about using the landscaping border. He's like the first person that I saw use it other than me. He said the same thing about me. It's like, man, I didn't know anybody else had tried that. But yeah, it works really well, especially if you're doing like an ellipse or an oval, maybe a circle or something like that. Works really well. Marcy said, great question, says, is casting epoxy the same as a deep pour epoxy? Yes. Yep, they're exactly the same. They just say deep pour because people might not know the terminology. But yeah, if you're going to cast something, it means you're going to pour a thick pour and have it inset inside the piece. You're going to cast it into it. So yes, all the same. DK says thinking palette wood with a blue resin in the surfboard shape. Yeah, that'll be really cool. I wonder what kind of wood the palette is made out of. I actually got some black walnut. I got a palette with black walnut the other day. I've also found cherry, maple, poplar. As a matter of fact, if you saw Hector, if you watched the video that I put making the legs for this dining table, the big blue one, Hector, we epoxied a desk for him at work, and we had 2 big crates come in. They were all poplar. It actually looked really nice. Chad says, going to try to get into some milling to supply people with some slabs for river tables. Now that is a really cool idea. I also know it's a lot of work too, especially depending on what type of mill you have. But yeah, man, that's really cool. Todd Hall says, thanks. We'll check it out. DK says, cool landscape board. Thank you. Marcy says, thanks. DK says, black walnut. I have some poplar and I think it's ash. Oh, that's cool. Ash is also very pretty, very light colored wood. I like that. Aaron says, what's up, Aaron? How you doing? Says, I'm going to start my D&D. Oops. My D&D table either tonight early or early morning. Wish me luck. I do need a few small tabletop pours to add layers and sand before the figure placement and deep pour. Ugh. Yeah, Aaron, I saw some of those pictures. It's gonna look really cool. So this Dungeons and Dragons, is this for you or is it for somebody else? Chad says, too bad I'm not in the USA to supply the slabs to. LOL. Yeah. Yeah, I know. So Chad, so you're not in the US. What are some hardwoods that you guys use where you are that are common? I know sometimes, you know, a lot of countries have a lot of different stuff that's more common. Troy says, in my neck of the woods, there's a lot of pecan. Have you done anything with pecan? Yes, I have. If you go to my channel and search the my most popular video series, it was the first video series that I did, and I made a pecan coffee table for some friends of mine. And so, yeah, go check those out, Troy. I think they have like 270 some thousand views. I don't know why, but that when I posted that series, it went straight up. It's the only ones that have done that have anywhere, you know, they have a couple 100,000 views, which is crazy. Blows my mind. I did that like probably 2 years ago. I posted that video. I had done epoxy before that, but that's the one that kind of set this channel into motion with the epoxy stuff, because I started getting a lot of questions, and you know, over time, I started to learn the answers to all these questions because I didn't know them I didn't know all of them at that point. I used to work with a lot of fiberglass and polyester resin, so I had a lot of experience with mixing two-part resins. Epoxy is a lot different, but the epoxy is different than polyester resin, but you kind of get the hang of mixing and knowing how to use the product and stuff like that. So Troy says it's only like $150 for a 6-foot slab. That's actually really crazy. 8-quarter though, a 6-foot 8-quarter slab. Aaron Hungate says it's for a client. It'll be a top for their computer desk that moves up and down so they can sit or stand during the day. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. You figured out what you're going to use to keep it from ambering or yellowing? Jennifer says, did you see my 2 questions from your measuring cup and coaster videos? Yes, I didn't. If I didn't answer, you know, I did not see them. But I can answer them right now if you wanna type them out. That'd be great. Sorry about that, Jennifer. Aaron says, at Troy, pecan is sexy looking with the right slab and color. That's for sure. Joseph says, hey, you're fun to watch and explain stuff. Thanks. Thanks, Joseph. I appreciate that. Jeremy says, there's a guy around me charging $20 a board foot for walnut. Is it me or is that a little much? Normally, I would say, yes, that's a little much, but it seems to be going up recently. I would say average around here is about $15 a board foot, but it's moving towards 18-ish. So he's not too far, you know, not too far out of the price range. I say 20 is a little high though. Is it dried? Because if it's not dry, no, he's crazy. It shouldn't be that high, especially if it's not dried. But if it has been killed dried, He's close. A little high, but close. Chad says, Remu, Red River, River Red Gum from Aussie, Curry, Totura, Tawa. Oh my word. Black pine and more. Man, I would like to see why do they call it black pine? That sounds interesting. Jennifer says, I said in message you could hold off on answering until shop talk. I got you. Aaron says, check out Wall Lumber. I get it delivered to my front door for $6 a foot, walnut. Aaron, can you type out in the comments the address, the URL? I'd like to the website. I'd like to see. I'd like to look into that. Jennifer says, bad measuring cups. Could you have reverted to measuring by weight? Oh, great question. Jennifer, I would say yes and no. Some epoxy companies list how to mix by weight. Most don't. Excuse me. Most of the ones that I have used for casting don't have a weight measurement. When they give you a 2-to-1 ratio or a 3-to-1 ratio, it's 3-to-1 by volume. And so unless you do your own experiment where you weigh 1 ounce of hardener versus 1 ounce of epoxy and figure out how to mix it 2-to-1, then I would recommend just sticking with volume. Joseph says, does the wood have to be kiln dried or does it matter? It doesn't have to be kiln dried, but it does have to be dried. It does have to have a moisture content of about 12% moisture content or less. The drier, the better. Great question, Joseph. Richard says, I just made it. Congrats on the new baby boy. No problem. No problem that you just made it. Thank you so much, Richard. Chad says, Google them. Thanks, Chad. Aaron Hungay says, Clint is the guy in charge of orders. He is I'm guessing champ. He's a champ. He's a chamo. Jeremy P says, at Aaron Hungay, how is the shipping? Aaron says, champ. They ship everything slab or dimensional lumber. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into them. What was it again? It was Wall something. Wall Lumber. Okay, I'm going to check that out. All right. Jennifer says, coasters. How thick/thin did you slice the burl? How did you determine how thick to cut the wood? Obviously, mold factors in, but what else would you consider? Great question. I'm going to grab that mold for you real quick. Okay. All right, so here are the coasters. Here's the mold. So the mold, I don't know if you guys can see, but it has like a little lip down in here where it goes down to this and then goes down even further down into that little line right here. It goes in there a little bit more. Now what I did was I measured from this lip to the bottom, which is about 1/2 inch. And I knew I wanted at least 1/8 of an inch on either side of the burl. And so that's all I did was I took a 1/2 inch, and I know that I wanted 1/8 inch on top and bottom. So 1/8 plus 1/8 is 1/4. 1/2 minus 1/4 is 1/4 inch. So I cut my wood pieces 1/4 of an inch. That's just how I did it. Super simple, nothing crazy. Great question. Aaron says, Jeremy, they do board foot bundles that has shipping included, 4/4 and 8/4. Second star to the right says, hey, good buddies from Canada. What's up, second star to the right? DB says, do you use a specific blade or saw to cut through the resin without chipping? Any tips? Yes. So I like to use a 60 tooth blade. Really, just look for one that is for finish cutting, or and I like to use multiple. I'll do multiple passes. Like if I'm trimming the edges of the epoxy, I'll do you know, 1/4 inch passes until I cut it all the way through. What you don't want to do is try to cut 2 inches at one time, because it can overheat. It'll burn the wood. Just take a few more passes. It won't take that much more time, and it'll have a much better finish. But no, I really don't have any problems with the epoxy chipping on any of my blades. The only time I have the epoxy chip is when I have used a planer on the epoxy, and when the blades are dull, or if it's a, excuse me, when the blades are dull. It does not matter if it's a helical head or a straight blade planer. If the blades are dull, it'll chip out. But usually, no, I don't have problems with chip out. Great question. NDK says, "Hi guys, still have trouble with using clear coat finish. I just can't do it right. It always has imperfections. Please advise." Me neither. um, no, the flood coat is probably the hardest part um, as far as imperfections. What you need to understand is that if you're in somewhere that has air movement, or it's dusty, it's gonna have imperfections. And I'd say 90% of the time, I'll get some pieces of dust or something in the surface. So try to do your best. If it's something small, when you pour, use a tote and cover it with a tote, or cover it with a bag or something like that, and that way you don't get any stuff in it. But if you pour your flood coat, heat it up, and you make sure that there's no air movement or anything like that in the area you're in, you should be good. Make sure that you stay around. Make sure your temperature is good. You don't want dieback. So dieback happens if you were in a warm area and then you open a door and cool air rushes in or something like that. Actually, that wouldn't work. That's kind of physically, and physics says hot air rushes into cold, but whatever. If you have a big temperature change, it'll cause dieback. And so just remember, once you pour it, check it for bubbles and things like that, or if you torch it and all that stuff, you should be good to go. Make sure that you round over the corners so that the epoxy can flow over. That would be the best thing. Another thing too is just be sure to, if you really want a professional product, especially if you're making a large table, you got to get used to sanding and buffing. It's just the name of the game. It's kind of hard to have a perfect finish especially if you don't have a dust-free, climate-controlled environment specifically for pouring, like a paint booth or something like that. So, yeah, you're gonna have to get used to sanding and buffing, especially if you want a perfect professional finish. Hopefully that answers all your questions, guys. That's going to be it for me this evening. I want to thank you guys for coming on here and asking a bunch of questions. That it always means a lot. I always love Shop Talk Tuesday. Thank you for congratulating me on my baby boy. I really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting this channel. It really means a lot, especially now family's growing. Obviously, support would be much more appreciated because my life has changed in a big way. Guys, you're awesome. You guys have been sharing my videos, watching, liking, and doing all the things. So you guys rock on the side. Saber Sauce says he got here too late. That's all. It's all good. Troy says, "What is dieback?" Hopefully, you understood what I was saying. It's just when you'll see what happens when the temperature changes. You can see like two things. You'll see like a foggy look in the epoxy, plus it won't be smooth. It'll be ripply. So dieback. Sean says, "I made it in time to say goodbye." Oh man, I'll catch you on the next one. Appreciate that, Sean. Joseph, thanks. Have a good one. Guys, as always, thanks for hanging out Thanks for hanging out with us. I will catch you on the next one. Be sure to be looking out for the next video. Forgot to tell you, this one will be a video on how to batch out small projects. We're going to be making a few different things, but we'll be ripping this down on the bandsaw and trying to utilize as much of that as possible. Instead of making one project, we'll try to make 3 or 4. Okay? So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for hanging out with us. Good night. Sweet dreams. All the things. Bye-bye.